Hi, in this video today, I want to go back on speaking about sustaining peace in practice by invoking the joint UNDP-PDA program on building national capacities for conflict prevention that has been established ever since 2004. It's a program that has evolved into a signature cross-pillar initiative with the proven track record of enhancing the United Nations collaboration on conflict prevention and peace building. I'll get back to speak furthermore about the concept of prevention, but before that, I want to speak about this context of sustaining peace in practice. As the reports of the UN Secretary General on Peacebuilding and Sustaining Peace mentioned, the UN system's efforts must continue to be oriented towards three key principles. Those are reinforcing national ownership, developing country contextual responses, and ensuring the effective delivery of development results on the ground. The Secretary General also recommended that the joint program serves as a model for making such enhanced capacities available. So if we speak about this program, it helps resident coordinators and UN country teams to identify entry points for conflict prevention by providing a strategic guidance and regular analysis, enhancing by the occasion the UN's ability to support national partners in building social cohesion and to respond to conflict triggers and also addressing the root causes of conflicts. So if we wanted to see an analysis of the peace of development advisors deployed globally, there are 48 of them in different zones in the world, and each one has on its member states as well as regions. The first zone is Latin America, that has on its the 6 members, if you want to call it that way. The Caribbean region, El Salvador, Guatemala, Guyana and Suriname together, Honduras and Venezuela. Then in the zone of Europe and CIS, the Commonwealth of Independent States, which includes the former USSR republics, all the boreal European continent, if you want, from Gibraltar to Vladivostok. It includes Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kyrgyzstan, South Caucasus region, Moldova, Tajikistan, and Ukraine. In the Arab states, you have 4 members: the Jordan, Sudan, Tunisia, and Yemen. In Africa, the African zone, the sub-Saharan African zone, 23 countries. Those are Burundi, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, Eritrea, Ethiopia, the Great Lakes region, Guinea, the Gambia, Liberia, Lesotho, Malawi, Mauritania, Madagascar, Mozambique, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Togo, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. Finally, in the Asia and the Pacific, there are 9 members, which are Bangladesh, Cambodia, Fiji and the Pacific together, Maldives, the Myanmar, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. Importantly, to mention the experiences of some countries within this context of action, I would speak about, for example, the experience of Malawi, that is policy-wise committed to make the culture of prevention a priority of the national policy, not only to focus on what's going on around Lilongwe and the capital region, but as well as the other regions of the country. So for this reason, with the support of the United Nations, through the joint program, the government of Malawi and the civil society therein have embarked on a collaborative process to establish a national peace architecture. The government of Malawi believe that the national peace architecture process is a good example for the United Nations Secretary General vision for prevention, according to Mrs. Marjorie Shema, which is a member of the Office and President of the Office of the President and Cabinet of the Republic of Malawi. Important that to mention that the support provided is to over 60 countries, supporting peaceful elections, dialogue, mediation, and peace process, democratic context, democratic speech. All that is very important from the government work, but also from the NGO, civil society, and academia's supports in and endeavors within this context. The snapshot on engagement, I can invoke the case of the Bosnia and Herzegovina Peace Development Unit that capacitated young leaders to strengthen their skills as insider mediators, recognizing by the occasion the potential of the youth and independent online media voices as agents of change. So the unit established a small grants facility for online media outlets and individuals to counter inflammatory and negative narratives and promote intercultural understandings. So far, over 150,000 people have been reached via the online channels. Besides this case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, I want to mention the peace and development units in Bangladesh and Myanmar that has enhanced cooperation between DPA and UN country teams in both countries by developing a joint border assessment. The overarching objective of this assessment was to better equip the UN to support the governments of Bangladesh and Myanmar in effectively addressing through unilateral and bilateral measures the multifaceted security challenges that affected the border regions and also larger nations at scale. Lesotho, that's an example in Africa. Here we speak about the context of the 2017 election. So the PDA and Lesotho accompanied and supported the heads of churches who function as insider mediators to facilitate dialogue on peaceful elections between the political party leaders with the support of the PDA. Prayer breakfast sessions were organized with political leaders as well within this context. And this became an essential forum in order to air and resolve numerous and volatile issues that arose as the election neared. It also led to the signing of a commitment by 30 political parties to prioritize fundamental national reforms after the elections. In the Philippines, there is the example of the PDA supported the development of partnership between UNDP, UNICEF, and UN Women to ensure the inclusion of women and youth and faith-based leaders in government's efforts to prevent violent extremism and to protect vulnerable groups such as former child combatants from radicalization. And this is again not something that is including only the capital of the Philippines, Manila. It includes the north of the country, where several members of the Abu Sayyaf group were basically based in order to combat terrorism. It includes other big cities in the Philippines, such as Cebu, Quezon, and as well General Santos, General between brackets. Key donors and partners. To move here, we can speak about the main key donors are partners: the European Union, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, the Republic of Korea, the United Kingdom. They have close engagements with the PBSO and PBF and country level engagement with funds and agencies. And there is a close collaboration as well with UN volunteers, civil society organization, and the United Nations Prevention Platform, such as the work of the NGOs when it comes to getting close to this context, as well as the Sweden's Folk Bernadotte Academy that plays a role in this context. So very important to mention this, as we had recently on the United Nations high-level meeting organized by the Office of the President of the 72nd General Assembly related to sustaining peace, peace building, and peacekeeping. And I want to get back to the concept of prevention. That is one of the most important things and subject of development through the UN projects, even when it comes to counterterrorism points, such as fighting terrorist fighters, creating a platform from the civil society and NGOs perspective in order to create peacekeeping and peace building actions, as well as the importance that plays the role of prevention in cooperation between several countries and international organization or even a regional organization in parallel with the efforts of the United Nations. So If we want to talk about this topic of prevention, it's very important to mention that it is coming in a time of great challenges. The context of action includes the fact that we have pledged as an international community to leave no one behind. This has been done through the goals of peaceful coexistence and inclusive development that has been put in place in 2015. But between 2015 and the beginning of 2018, which is almost a period of 2 years and a half, this is just a period to put in place all the things that have to be moved forward for result within the upcoming 12 years, because that's only a bridge. The 12 years itself is only a bridge, and all what have been done right now is a preliminary diagnosis in regards of the achievement of several goals. Same context for the Paris Agreement. It started in 2015, 2018. You would start seeing how feasible all the clauses are coming up to the reality, to the ground, and continue from that first result, the 2018 raw result, if you want, to the further result within the period of the future for the COP, but for the SDGs is the period of 2018-2030 as a bridge for the 2030s and the following decades of the 21st century, but one step at a time, of course. So, to go back, the norms and values of the United Nations are being disregarded. Millions flee in search of safer, better lives, even as doors are closing. Brutal conflicts rage, taking countless lives and displacing millions. Terrorism and violent extremism is affecting all the regions, and the climate-related natural disasters that I mentioned before could be also part of harming the peacekeeping process. They are becoming more frequent, and their destructive powers are more intense, especially in the most vulnerable areas in the world. So there is an important and a need of a search or in preventive diplomacy that has to be put in place within the lessons learned from the 2015 to 2018 in this context of action. By putting an integral view of prevention that is focused on inclusion, women's empowerment in the fullest sense, and needing women's at the table at all level. That's part of the gender equality, which I fully agree with the Secretary General to speak about this. This is a very important topic, and I'm very glad that the senior management group at the United Nations now incorporates more women than men. It's the very first time in history, ever since 70 years, the creation of the organization. Steps to advance gender parity at the United Nations and all its activities is a must, and furthering strength to support integration gender perspectives to mediation efforts is part of it, as well as expanding the pool of qualified women leaders to serve as envoys for mediation specialists. So the Agenda 2030 and sustaining peace essential to long-term prevention is a very, very important topic. The best way to prevent societies from descending into crisis is to ensure they are resilient through investment and inclusive as well as sustainable development, including concerted climate action and management of mass migration. That is a very big issue right now when we speak about the crisis in Syria, the crisis in Yemen, such as examples of the issue that is a first priority agenda when it comes to the UNHCR. For all the countries, preventing the fraying of social fabric depends on crucial elements such as addressing the inequalities, strengthening institutions, and ensuring that development strategies takes account the risk factors that could lead to a crisis. Development is a key to prevention. And we have here cases of emergency management. Like I say before, it's like a first respondent reaction to this kind of issues, and it cannot stay on the policy desk. It has to move to the ground as fast as possible to concretize results given the diagnosis of 2015-2018 in this context of action. So far from diverting the resources or attention away from development, an effective and broad focus on prevention will generate more investment and concerted efforts to achieve the SDGs. In this regard, the partnership of the United Nations with the World Bank and regional development banks will be critical and will soon create a context that could give a better insight even to national governments and regional governments in the member states. Countries, I'm thinking about countries at particular risk of conflict or recovering from it. The resolutions on sustaining peace and on women, peace and security provide additional tools. Indeed, the SDGs and sustainable peace and considered here as complementary and multilaterally reinforcing the sustained development process. The implementation of both agendas will ensure, of course, that stable societies prosper and the fragile societies can manage risks and shocks effectively as well. Because, like I said, it's a very long term when we speak about sustaining peace. It's very hard to make the prevention indicator universalized each country has its context, its member state has its own conjuncture, and this will take a lot of time in order to get the things done. Way back, as we mentioned before, it's very important to strengthen the partnership. So, recognizing that the United Nations is not only an actor, and in many cases, not even the most important actor, the ultimate goal is not to expand the remits, but with humility to make a real difference for people, especially the most vulnerable. And like I said, this is very, very important when it comes to strengthening the NGOs work and the civil society work with the United Nations system in order to get to the best way to reinforce the rule of partnership and mobilize with it the whole societies of the member states that are included or affected, I would say, by these issues. The UN system is most impactful when enabling others. This means building meaningful partnerships with the wildest array of governments and the regional organization and international financial institution and civil society organizations, as I mentioned earlier, as well as academia and the private sector. This always being truthful to the mission of the United Nations as guardian of international norms, making the organization a peacekeeper and a peace builder that has been the rule over the past decades, 7 decades. The comprehensive reform context of action is very, very important. We cannot meet the prevention challenge with the status quo. Indeed, the United Nations needs to be more unified in its thinking and in its action, and put people at the center of its work. Again, the whole work of the United Nations has to reflect from the headquarters to the rest of the globe. That's the whole important goal, either for peacekeeping, either for the rule of the SDGs, either for the rule of the climate change COP context, all of it. So very important that people here, we're speaking about the factor of people. People do not experience problems and crises in silos. That's the first result, the first thing that we have to notice, to realize that we are getting on the right path, because people question why the support comes from many different actors, why different plans and messages are there, and this burden their ability to bring together a capacity of diverse solutions to the table. So very important to work towards the outcome and to focus on all the aspects that could build and enable the comprehensive reform within the context of prevention platforms. Policy is very important, but we have to focus on the cases on the field, such as the issues that happened in several countries. I do mention sub-Saharan countries, the one I mentioned earlier within the Sustaining Peace in Practice joint program of the UNDP-DPA. There are issues all over the world. Like I said, you could be in peace, you could be in ceasefire, anything can occur at any time. You have always to have a way to detect the engineering wise, the indicator that could show you what is could lead to peace or could lead for further tension within the next midterm future, if you want, or long-term future, if you can assess it. The root causes of migration is an issue that I can mention in the case of Niger, for example, by stating that high unemployment rates and the lack of quality job opportunities are leading factors that shape young people's decisions to migrate. Over there, a youth between 15 and 29 of the age from there and in general from sub-Saharan Africa comprise a group that is the most inclined to move ahead in search of job. Globally, this age group accounted for nearly 31 million international migrants around the globe in 2013. That is over 21% of the 243 million migrants worldwide that year. At the same time, more than 67 million people in the Sahel live with the effects of land degradation and desertification, and across Africa, it's one every three people and lives that is basically in a drought region. So I want to get back furthermore in a further video in order to analyze the prevention aspect. As I said, I mentioned some cases right now, and I want to go back further in depth to talk about issues that are more related to the context of case by case, region by region, and speaking about the panel of the rule of preventing violent conflicts in Africa, for example, preventing crisis and conflict in the context of women's rule in ongoing peace processes, as well as the topic of advancing the debate on a culture of conflict prevention. One of the things that I want to mention also further in time in a video is empowering the civil society. In the case of Latin America, here I want to speak about promoting equality and preventing conflict. Also, the importance of media and information literacy as a means of preventing violent extremism, varying from a region to the other in the world. I will get back to an example of the Asian Institute for Peace and Reconciliation within the context of the rule of preventing crisis. And the ingredients of prevention is also a topic that could be mentioned as a recommendation. Finally, I would speak also about the role of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in counteracting threats to peace and security. Stay tuned and thank you for watching.